two aggressors, two Hispano Buchons playing the roles of Messerschmitt Bf-109s, as these two aircraft did in the making of the Battle of Britain film in 1968. Two Spanish-built Rolls-Royce Merlin-powered versions of the Bf-109, here operating as a pair, and indeed Luftwaffe Bf-109s would traditionally fly in flights of two, known as a rotor. Bf-109 endurance was not that great. They could manage just a few minutes dogfighting over British soil, but the longer-range twin-engine Bf-110 fighters, also used during the Battle of Britain itself, may have had longer range, but they were much more vulnerable to the single-engine, single-seat RAF fighters, the Hurricanes and the Spitfires. We've got the single-seat HA1112 M1L version leading the pair, and behind it the Touchon, as it's known, the two-seat M4L version. Both of these veterans of the Battle of Britain filming part of an enormous fleet of Buchons that was assembled by Spitfire Productions Limited, having recently been retired by the Spanish Air Force in 1968. But here, going after them, the RAF, the number 19 Squadron veteran Spitfire 1A from the Imperial War Museum's collection, and the Comanche fighters Spitfire 1A. Not in fact one of those two aircraft that took part in the filming. That will be flying later in our finale. It really was an extraordinary sight in 1968 on this, by then, for several years, disused airfield. An enormous fleet of Spitfires and Buchons, a handful of Hurricanes, and several Casa 211s representing the Heinkel HE-111, plus the psychedelic monster, the very distinctively painted B-25 Mitchell camera ship. And when they could, when the awful summer weather conditions of the summer of 1968 allowed, these aircraft would launch from Duxford en masse to recreate the aerial battles of 1940. And that we do today on a slightly smaller scale, with the two Spitfires about to run in to engage our Spanish Messerschmitts. during the Battle of Britain itself was that information on German intruders would have been passed on from the chain home radar stations to Fighter Command headquarters at RAF Bentley Priory, then on to the group headquarters, and then the sector stations whose operation rooms, like the one here at Duxford, would vector the RAF fighters towards their German targets. Plotting tables in the operations rooms like the one here at Duxford, the plotters, often WAFs, members of the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, would chart the progress of the German raids and the positions of the RAF fighters that were going after them. During the Battle of Britain would be to send the slower Hurricanes after the Luftwaffe bombers and the faster Spitfires, as we see here, after the fighters. Both of those RAF types were able to turn inside the Bf-109, particularly the Hurricane. The 109, meanwhile, could outrun the Spitfire at high altitude. It was the other way round at lower level. The best tactic for Luftwaffe 109 pilots was to execute a fighter sweep, what the Germans called a freie Jagd, a free fight, and bounce their opponents from altitude. So close escort of their bomber force was not ideal. Two Spitfires, the Mark 1As of IWM and Comanche fighters, once again as part of our big wing finale to our Battle of Britain air show today. Coming into land, the two Buchons, the two-seater operated by Ultimate Warbird Flights from Sywell. The single-seater by the Aircraft Restoration Company. Dave Pulliston bringing in the two-seater on the hard runway. And there comes the single-seater on the grass in the hands of Steve Jones. And the Spitfires were flown there by John Gowdy and Stu Goldspick.